and now the current Democratic nominee for President of the United States. And we'd like to hear his opinions and his views on this. Vice President Joe Biden, welcome.
I appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me. And I would be inappropriate to start without thanking Enrique for doing this and Univision. And Congressman Phil, I just go through the Phil, Benny, all the congresspersons that are on. I guess Zoe's on, as well as Joaquin. And I just want to stand, proud to stand with LULAC. I've been with you my entire career because there's no more powerful voice for human rights and human dignity than, and that was true back in the 70s when I was a kid running for the United States Senate. We have a lot of chickens in this state. We a lot of broiler chickens, and there's a lot of folks quote hanging chickens, same as meat packing. And it was a fight back then to improve the treatment of migrant workers and to prevent states from using English-only ballots. It was true when we worked together in the 90s to put domestic violence front and center and pass the Violence Against Women Act. And so it's no surprise to me that in the midst of the worst global health crisis in the country and in a century, LULAC is in the fray, standing up for workers who are literally carrying this country on their backs and shining a light on the conditions that these workers go through. The rest of the country too often doesn't understand it. It's not they forget about it. They just don't even know how tough it is in those meatpacking factories. You've been to them. I've been to them. They're tough under any circumstance. Men and women putting in long hours in meatpacking plants and in chicken plants. Look, when was the last time the average American stopped to appreciate the labor that gets into buying a package of pork chops or at your local grocery store? And it's not so bad. They just don't know how tough it is to get it done, or thought about the lives of the people who make that possible. Meatpacking has always been a hard work, and it takes incredible physical toll on labor on the best of conditions. And it's always been dangerous. It's always been underpaid. And now add that to the extreme threat of COVID-19, made all the worse by fear that workers are living with every single day. They're afraid to go to work because that means what happens if they get ill? What happens if they get COVID-19? They're afraid to stay home because what it means to their livelihood. How are they going to lose their job? They're afraid to come home after work because what they might be bringing back and spread to the people they love and adore. They're afraid to seek proper medical care because what if it meant that their immigration status is in jeopardy and would change? These plants are hotspots for the spread of coronavirus. And I want to make one point here. Every morning I start off like I did this morning with leading medical advisors for an hour and a half briefing on the state of the coronavirus in the United States. And guess what? Nursing homes and meat packing plants are the most dangerous places there are right now. That's not up for debate. Thousands of infections have been traced back to meat packing plants, and at least 30 workers have died from it. They designate them as essential workers, then treat them as disposable. It's quite frankly inhumane and downright immoral because these workers are essential to our society, not just in times of crisis, but always. And they deserve our respect. They deserve a safe working place. They deserve fair pay. And they should never again in this country deny anyone a livable wage like many are being denied. And during this crisis, our essential workers deserve extra premium pay. Let me say that again, extra premium pay to compensate them for the additional risk they face. They deserve the personal protective equipment, including gloves like I have on, a mask that I wear whenever I'm around anyone from the Secret Service or the people doing this broadcast, to enable them to do their jobs as safely as possible. But more than that, they deserve easy access and rapid result testing, which are essential to determining who is and who is not able to work. Look, where are these tests? Testing with rapid results is going to be the linchpin to safely reopen our country. We need to make sure that our frontline workers like meat packers are also at the front of the line when these tests are accessible. They have to be the first to be accessible to the test. They deserve a government that's looking out for their interests, not pushing a false choice between protecting workers' health and safety and protecting our food supply. We can do both. We have to do both. That's what leadership is about. OSHA should get rigorous enforcement standards and make sure employers are following through on them so that no worker gets sick or injured or dies in the job. OSHA has been absent in the job. It doesn't just apply to infections and infectious disease precautions like social distancing and staggering breaks so people get a break to get off the line, but enforcing everyday worker safety precautions, like making sure the speed of the line isn't causing employee injuries, which it has and does. Paid sick leave isn't a luxury. Paid sick leave, not a luxury, a right. It's a basic human necessity. It also keeps a robust workforce. Look, no one should have to choose between earning a living and protecting their own health, as well as the health of those around them they love so much. This virus has made all too clear the absolute necessity of making sure everyone can access affordable, high-quality health care. That's what our government should be doing right now, not fighting in the courts to strip away the healthcare protections from folks who need it more than ever. Testing, rapid results, treatment, and ultimately access to a vaccine for COVID-19 should be available to everyone, and I mean everyone, free of cost. Ask yourself this: what good is it going to do if we withhold access to needed treatment from the poorest members of our society, the most vulnerable, the undocumented? How are we made better or stronger as a nation when immigrant and Latino communities, so many of whom are working in the very plants that are now designated as essential to our economy and food supply, live in a daily terror of an ICE raid on their workplace or other sensitive locations? What do we gain by implementing Trump's un-American public charge rule, which makes people scared to seek out healthcare treatment or need housing or food assistance? You know, that's what's happening right now in places like Albertville, Alabama, where hundreds of infections are connected to 2 meatpacking plants, including one family where both mother and father have the coronavirus. Look, they're too afraid to seek care at a local medical facility because they are undocumented. You know, and there is a police presence at their door, which they worry about. The only support is what communities, volunteers bring to them. This is heartbreaking. Not only heartbreaking, it's the very definition of being counterproductive. We won't be able to defeat this virus until we defeat it everywhere. In just a moment, you're going to hear directly from the families, and I've read their statements of being directly hit by this crisis and the challenges we're talking about. I hope everyone hears their stories and listens to what they have to share, because here's what they know all too well, and what every leader and politician needs to know too. These aren't just numbers. These are individual lives. They're individual stories and families struggling and ripped apart by this pandemic, who need our empathy and our help. You know, I put out a detailed plan about what I think we should be doing right now to support our frontline workers and address the disparities we're seeing with COVID-19 impacts all across the country. And I truly think that if we do this right, we have an incredible opportunity to not just dig out of this crisis, but to fundamentally transform the country so that it's more fair, more just, more equitable for everybody, everyone, including for workers in meatpacking industries. I want Donald Trump to look one of these essential workers in the eye, the meatpackers, delivery drivers, healthcare workers, grocery store clerks, and tell them they don't deserve a livable wage, paid sick leave. This is all about, as my dad would say, he said, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about being treated with respect. The recognition that these people put their health and lives at risk so the rest of us could be safe and fed has to be made clear. So let me close by saying this. Our workers are the heart and soul of this country. We'd not survive without you. We're seeing the truth of that right now. To all the workers in the meatpacking plants, you have my support, and I'm going to keep speaking out along with LULAC and so many of my brethren are on this cast that we're doing now, all on your behalf, because we owe you. So thank you for everything you're doing. You're doing not only for your community, but your entire country. And thank you again, LULAC. Thank you, Domingo, for the important work you're doing and starting this conversation. Conclude by saying one last thing. We're the only nation in the world that has come out of every significant crisis stronger because the blinders get taken off. Average people who didn't have any idea how tough it was to work in a meatpacking plant or a chicken factory. Average Americans who had no idea how dangerous it was to begin with and how underpaid and not treated well so many are. This ought to give us the cry to say enough is enough is enough. We're going to beat this virus and then we're going to change the system. But thank you again, everyone, for doing this. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, Enrique. Thank you for broadcasting this.
Team, subscribe for more of these type of videos.